What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode. Today, we are going to talk about shiny object syndrome. A lot of Amazon sellers have this. You hear all about the different business models and just all the different things you could do today. Crypto, we were just talking about before we got this started. Amazon influencer program, wholesale, Walmart. The list is endless. So we're going to kind of go through how we think about shiny object syndrome, new opportunities, how we kind of stay focused, and all that good stuff. What's
Yeah.
up?
Nothing much. I think it's decent for me to talk about it too now because of me actually leaving. But
Yeah.
I don't think it's funny because when I was younger, I was like the shiny object king. I was always trying all these different business models, and then I got launched on the Amazon with the COVID stuff, like when that happened. But nowadays, I don't know. I don't really see it as much anymore because I realized the whole like Dunning-Kruger effect thing, which I'm sure you've heard about that. It's like when you hit this point where you hear something new and you think you know a lot about it, and then you learn actually more about it and you realize it's really, really hard and it takes forever to kind of like get out of that hump. So I think that's kind of what most people fall into, and that's why they keep bouncing from thing to thing. But overall, I think it's just everybody thinks there's something better out there. They never think their current situation is like ideal, which is usually just not the case, you know?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think it is good to have at first, because you want to try a bunch of stuff. You don't want to just say, hey, I'm going to sell on Amazon. And then maybe you kind of like doing it, you don't like doing it. So maybe in that sense, maybe you should try TikTok shop or something else. But I feel like at a certain point, I think where it really comes into play is when maybe I've been running an Amazon business for 3 or 4 years and I see all these other opportunities pop up. It's a lot more, I guess, risky for me because I have a lot more invested. I know a ton about Amazon for me to make a total switch than if I was just doing Amazon for like a couple weeks and I was like, I don't know if I really like this.
Yeah, a little bit. But I mean, the problem with like, I think everybody starts stuff and they think it's like going to be easy. When it's not
Yeah.
easy, it's simple. Like all this stuff is relatively simple. It's just going to require like way more time and effort and work to get it working, no matter like literally what you do. I think that's like where people fall into the issue because they just like bounce super quick. Which that was
Yeah.
like that's why it took me so long to make the full decision of like, am I going to stop doing the Amazon thing? Because man, I've dedicated so much time, like you said, like 3 to 4 years of learning all this stuff. I have all these skills,
Yeah.
and like I could really, if I wanted to, just live forever off of coaching people like once or twice a month. Like I could literally make an income forever. But I just didn't feel like that was. I'm not the type of guy to quit and keep coaching type of thing. I think that's a tough one. So yeah, I mean, it's like I also don't want to play into like the sunk cost fallacy either. That was kind of the big part, which
Sure.
like that's kind of like what you're talking about. Is like, okay, I've done this for 3 to 4 years. I've sunk so much cost into it, so I don't want to get. It's like buying a stock and you're down like 80%, but you don't want to sell it because I bought it and I have all this
Yeah.
money into it, but really that thing's going to go down another 80%. Like it can keep going down, and you're just going to lose every dollar anyway. So that was kind of like what I thought because I got myself into that. I'm like, oh, I've been doing it for so long. I have all this time, all this effort, all this money into it, but that's just like falling for another fallacy, just like the shiny object one, which I guess you just fall for one of them no matter what you do.
Yeah, no, I agree as well with you on all of that. And I think, it always is just hard and I think you just got to do the best with the info you have because you really don't know, right? Like, who's to say that Walmart's better or private label's better or wholesale's better? Like, it's all different and it's very relevant to that person based on their skill set or kind of the problems they want to have. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think too, you really have to. I feel like sometimes people might think that you almost just made the decision overnight to stop selling on Amazon. So I could see how
There's like,
people thought that. But like, meanwhile, in the background, we've been like talking about it for like the last year, like on and off, like just kind of throwing things back and forth and just kind of thinking through like what it might look like for you to kind of do that.
yeah. One thing about it, about all these opportunities that people always see, and like if you're watching this and you can like truly understand this, then you'll stop falling for this a lot. Is that every message that's shared to you on social media is a marketing message. So
Mm,
like when you see someone talking about, oh, this is better than this, that there's a reason for that. They want you to believe that this unique thing is the best for you. Either they're going to try to sell you something for it, or they're trying to get you to believe that they are doing the best thing, like kind of coping for their own stuff. When in reality, literally anything you do is fine. Like everything will work if you put up enough time and all this different stuff. It's just the matter of, what is your end goal for it? With me, the Amazon decision was because, okay, I can't sell the business and I can't cash flow 50, 100 grand a month from it. So, okay, I can't do either of those things. Those are the only two things I really want long term. So there's no point in me doing this business anymore. But that's the case with a lot of businesses. I could have done like many different things that falls in the same thing. But really, all of it's the same. You can make money doing anything. It's just different marketing messages that get purported to you that, might not be exactly what the case is.
Yeah, and I think I guess I could give an example. So like when I decided to leave books, it was kind of the same thing. I think you have to kind of outline your why. So my why was it was basically restock limits. So I started selling on Amazon because I wanted to do all FBA. And then when the restock limits hit, I, in my head, did not want to have a massive merchant fulfilled operation, right? Because I was a smaller, I mean, I had like a decent sized business, but sending out 50, 60 books a day is definitely time consuming. And the only way to grow it is to get that up to 100, 200, 300 a day. And just thinking through all of that and, shipping, all of those, tracking, all like it just was way too much for me. And I did have a little shiny object syndrome, seeing everyone do OA, because a lot of the people, when I first started, everyone was doing books. That's how most people start, actually, or RA. And I was like, oh, like, it looks easier. You know what I mean? And it wasn't like I was just like, oh, I'm a bookseller. I understand Amazon. Transition to OA gonna be super easy, right? You're just buying different things instead of books. You're gonna buy Nike stuff or whatever you're gonna buy, and it turned out to be just really, really hard. And one of the hardest parts to go through is, looking at everything I built. I had the book business for almost 3 years and kind of having you basically start over. So I think that's one thing to think about. A lot of people think, oh, like I'm just going to do the Amazon influencer program now, or oh, I'm just going to go sell on Walmart. I'm going to have a 6-figure business in, I don't know, 2 months because I already have a 6-figure Amazon business or whatever. But it's absolutely the total opposite because you start over. Even with a coach or a mentor,
Mm-hmm.
the ramp up period, you're looking at least like 6 to 8 months, I would
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, proof in the pudding here. I mean, I thought that because I was like so successful on Amazon that it'd be easy to kind of translate to anything. But then I
Yeah.
realized another huge problem with Amazon is you don't build any skills. And like I've saw people make this argument to me of like, you build this and you build this. Yeah, dude, you know how to ship a package, you know how to like, find cheap stuff on the internet, but those things aren't like skills. Like those aren't marketing, copywriting, like sales. You don't know any of these things. You don't know how to build a funnel. You don't know how to do like any business things. So it took me forever to realize one, the technical stuff of like, what websites do I use? How do I use ChatGPT? Like, just like I was talking about before this, how do I use this properly to leverage, my time so I'm not writing hundreds and hundreds of words and I can let that write for me, that kind of stuff. And that takes forever to learn. And then you learn all that stuff and you realize, okay, that's not even enough. You also have to learn how to get this message across to people. You have to learn the actual marketing mechanisms within this and like the human psychology, which that is like other like hill to climb on. So all that stuff is like really, really difficult and takes a long time. And I kind of thought it wouldn't take that long, but it's just like the thing I was talking about previously. You kind of see something, you're like, oh, well, that should be pretty easy. And then it takes months. And you're like, this is actually getting harder the more I do it. But then you realize that that's why people quit. That I realized if I could do it for 6 months and like keep to something, that's where people quit all the time. Like those moments when you're like laying in bed at night, like, oh, if I jacked all this stuff up, it's just like the worst decision ever. It's like, okay, this is where people quit. If I can push through this part, then I win. So that's a little mental frame too, where if somebody is doing something else, like we were talking about previously, like the OA and the wholesale thing. Like some people are getting this shiny object of like wholesale is going to be better. Well, I'll tell you this, wholesale is a different business model and you do have to have other skills because you have to have people skills. You have to have writing skills because you're writing emails or you're cold calling. So it's going to be different than OA. Your skill set is not the same. When you're sitting there and you've emailed 100 suppliers, or you've cold called like 700 people and no one's got to, like, that's kind of the point where you have to be like, okay, I've got to keep going if that's what you really want, or you can go back to doing your OA stuff.
Yeah, I think that is a really good point. I feel like you do build some skills when you have like an OA business. It's not copywriting or anything like that, which I think that's like a big skill. But I think like just managing a business and like cash flow and stuff like that, because
Mhm.
that's definitely like a good skill to have. I don't think you're going to be able to get like an accounting job or anything from like doing it. But I do think like as ecom gets bigger, like managing an Amazon store, like you could manage probably like an ecom store for like probably like a smaller company, you know what I mean? Or just having that like kind of baseline knowledge. But yeah, in terms of like just buying something from a website that sells for more, I mean, I guess you're like reading data and stuff like that. But yeah, like, yeah, copywriting and sales and stuff, that's obviously.
Well, the good part about Amazon is that's like the marketing message that everyone shares. Like every video is some dude in a fucking Nike outlet or a Marshall's like scanning something. So the whole marketing message of how do you sell Amazon to a newbie is, hey, this requires no skills. And then you get there and you're like, oh yeah, I'm not building any skills. I'm just like, because it's not a
Okay, that's a
it's a
good point.
business.
Now that you say that, yes. Okay.
Yeah, no one's like
Yeah, people got
yeah.
mad when you said that on one of the episodes, like it builds no skill. But then now that you just said that, like all the marketing around it is like you need no skills. So yeah,
Yeah,
you
that's
can't
what's
get
the selling
mad
point.
about the message.
Yeah, that's like the whole point of it, which
I
I
didn't
get the
realize that. Yeah, you're 100%
I would love
correct.
to know. Okay, so if you do build skills, we can have like a little debate here because maybe you could prove me wrong. So
Okay.
if you do build skills with Amazon, where do they translate? Because if you say you can manage an e-com store, what can you manage in an e-com store? Let's say that I have a brand. I run Ghost Hydration. I'm selling this. Where does that translate? Like, what do you know about selling Ghost Hydration now?
So I feel like so if you were doing ghost hydration, I think one thing you could look at is how to bring them on Amazon platform if they were interested in that, because you understand that. I
But
think
you don't know how to do that. Do you know how to create a
well, it'd be
listing?
easier to learn though.
Okay, true. You know the interface.
Cause
Yeah.
like, yeah, like you just have to, I think there's like a brand, it's basically like a brand hub that's similar to Seller Central from what I understand. I think
Yeah.
inventory management, like that would be simple. Like, like when you're replanning stuff, like
Mhm.
you're trying to do calculations, probably maybe a little like repricing. I don't know. But yeah, no, I mean, I see your point though, but I think there
That's
is stuff that you could like translate to like
Yeah, and
skill.
I'm sure the people in the comments too. We're early, and so people are going to be like,
Yeah.
"This guy's an idiot. You learn this and this and this." But it's like I get it that you like learn
Yeah.
things. I'm not saying that you're just like floating through the ether as like an idiot forever. But I just like as I do other business stuff, I can like clearly tell people that you don't have a bunch of stuff that's going to translate. Like if you have to open an in-person business, let's just put it to like a rudimentary form. That you're
Yeah.
opening a restaurant, like a basic business. What have you learned that gets there? Except for one thing, you could find cheaper products for your business because sometimes you can find cheaper
Yeah,
stuff.
that is true.
Yeah, I mean discount shopping. You know, I bought these. Ironically, I bought those hydration things. I used a bunch of coupon codes and got them down from like $3 price point to $120. So I did save like 60% off. That's a pretty good skill. Budgeting. I think
Yeah,
I
that
don't
is a big
even know about
skill.
that.
I would
Yeah,
say
it is.
that's probably one of the biggest ones because there are people that like just go into organizations like consultants and just basically like, oh, like we could save you 20% on all your office supplies or something like that. And they don't
Yep.
work for like Staples or whatever, but like if you kind of know these like little ins and outs. Um yeah, I'm trying to like off the top of my head, but I feel like I don't know if I thought about it a little more, but I understand your point.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm always wondering if there's something like I've missed with this whole thing, which like I mean, one thing is the VAs. Okay. You're managing a team.
Yeah,
Like that's going to be, no matter if you're teaching them
that
Amazon or
is
you're teaching
big.
them whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I never really did that. And I don't see a ton of people do it super successfully. So do you learn that? I don't really know. So
Yeah, I think you could cut management. I think for me with the books, I learned how to like run a warehouse and like hire employees and stuff like that, which
yeah,
I
that's cool.
mean, it was rough. I think coordinating freight was super annoying, but I learned a ton about shipping and kind of like how that works and pallets and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, no, that's a good point. I feel like.
I hate to like trash Amazon too because it's like I've made all my money doing that, but you know, I guess the further I get along into other things, I'm just like, okay, I can trash it, whatever.
True story.
But I guess let's talk more about the shiny object syndrome
Yeah.
thing. Let's see. One thing, I looked this up on ChatGPT for those listening. That what can we talk about when it comes to this, and the role of mentorship. And I think that's pretty interesting because not
Yeah.
only having a mentor in that can keep you accountable to whatever you're doing, but having some financial like incentive in there or financial pain, I guess. Because if you pay 5K, 10K to somebody, you're probably more likely to stick with it because that's going to hurt your wallet, and you're going to think the whole time, I need to get this investment back.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think that mentorship is, I think, great because I know all the time. I'll use a personal example. Like when I work with my trainer, I'll send him like, "Oh, what do you think about this?" He's like, "You're doing this. Like we're
Mhm.
not doing like the fasting or we're like no, like you gotta we're gonna get you to like where you want to be weight wise and look wise, and then you could like do this other stuff." So I think in that case it is like important to kind of be like in a group or mentorship or something like that. I think the opposite though could backfire if you have too many mentors or you're in too many groups, because then there's just too much competing information and it's like, what do I do?
That was one of the big things I said on that seminar, is
Yeah.
like you like that they said, somebody asked the question of who should I follow on social media? And I was like, me, only me. And I wrote down your name and like a few other guys, but I was like, if you're here and you've paid me, like you should probably not listen to a ton of different people. I think that you get in these spaces and you start following a lot of people, but it's almost better to just pick somebody and go with them, especially if it's somebody you relate to. There's just too many different marketing messages that get shared to you. And then imagine
Yeah.
like people that follow me. Okay, I've been doing Amazon for all this time. They've been listening to me about Amazon. They like love my insights on Amazon. And then I switch it. I'm doing something else. Now they're going to think subconsciously like, whoa, if he's leaving, maybe I should leave, which is like not the case
True.
at all, because that's not, I didn't leave because of anything specific with Amazon, not making money or whatever. It's just, I have other things I'm wanting to do.
Right.
So yeah, maybe that's a con, I guess, listen to one person, but I do think you should listen to a small group of people and not spread yourself thin on the info you get.
It is, but I think you also have to. I think that's one issue that people. It depends on the space or whatever. But in something like this, like you talked about, all right, like I'm leaving Amazon. So if I did your mentorship, like should I leave Amazon too? I think you
Yeah,
almost have to be smart enough. If someone asks you, well, what are you doing instead? If that does not sound appealing to me, I'll be like, oh, like I don't want to do that. Like I'm gonna stick to this. Or if it's working really well for you, like what you want to do, right? If you only want to make $1,000, $2,000 a month, like you should probably stick to Amazon because like it's a great thing to do.
exactly.
So I think yeah, you gotta know yourself and just kind of be like, oh, interesting. But I think a lot of it like comes like I think we're just all like this. We're wired to just kind of constantly be seeking. Like we think there are secrets out there that
Hmm.
everyone has, and it's just really there really aren't that many secrets out there. It's really just the big secret is putting in the work,
Yeah,
but no one wants
which
to
is
hear that.
no.
Like that
Yeah,
is the secret. Um, and I've been like kind of doing that. So I've been like kind of in like a sourcing rut, and then decided like you know what, like just sit down and just you can't get up until you spend 2 grand or whatever it is. And
that's my
like
advice.
sure enough, like there you just like find stuff as you're just like fighting through, and it it probably takes me quicker because obviously like I know a bunch of stuff and like do a lot of Keepa and all this other stuff. But I think a lot of people, yeah, like you say, there it's easy to throw in the towel, and it could be easy to be like, oh, like you're not finding anything because like you haven't done like my mentorship or you haven't taken my course or whatever. Um, it's not the solution. I feel like,
Yeah. And I'll say this, and I think I maybe have said this before on previous podcasts. Like, if you can't make Amazon work, like, good luck making anything else work. Like, this is,
yeah,
like I said, this is like an easy barrier to entry thing. Like, it's a good way to just like get your foot in any kind of business or any kind of making money online type of thing. So if you're months into this and you're not making it work by now, I mean, I would probably think I don't know. That's just a brutal one. Like I saw someone that asked me, you know, I've been in business for 3 years and I haven't turned a profit yet on Amazon. And I was like,
That's
I think
shocking
that's
that
the
they're
sign.
still
Like,
alive
yeah,
in business.
yeah. I'm like,
Oh,
well, I guess like you have a 9 to 5, you're just dumping your cash in
okay.
and trying to turn a profit. But it's like, dude, if it's been that long, like maybe this just isn't for you. That's, I would not do something for
Wow.
3 years and it not working. I mean, that's a lot of persistence, but they
Yeah,
should have
it's not
found.
like you're the next Facebook where you're supposed to lose money for like 20, 30. I think Amazon lost money for like at least 10 years. I don't know if it was as much as 20,
Yeah,
but they
that's.
were
I feel like
building Amazon. So it's a
that's
little
even a
different.
bit of like a psyop, like the thing of lose money for a long time business. I think, like especially when it comes to this, like some businesses, yes, you're gonna have to hemorrhage cash for a while, but like with this, you shouldn't be hemorrhaging cash because you're
Yeah.
literally just flipping items. So you're not like putting in all this capital to build this big asset. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's
the
a bit of
only
a
way that happens is like Amazon loses your shit or
yeah.
prep center issues, they steal like stuff like that is probably like the biggest like hemorrhaging like you'll have.
Mhm.
Um but yeah, agreed. Like for 3 years, I mean that's insane. And yeah, I don't know. That's crazy.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do lose money for a while. And I think that whole thing of people knowing, okay, businesses lose money normally. So it's okay if I do it. Like, not with this one. Like, that should not be the way
Yeah,
you look
because
at yourself.
this adds up quick. I think the biggest fallacy of the Amazon business is you'll see people say, "Oh, I'm making 5 to 10 to 20 a month or whatever," and forget about the fact that like maybe it isn't sales, maybe that's what comes back or whatever, but it's almost like not liquid. You can't take it
Yeah.
out of the business. It has to constantly stay in the business. And that's how I grew so quickly. Like I had a 9 to 5 and just like ruled everything I made on Amazon. I didn't take anything out for like 2 years and just kept growing and building it. And now I take a set amount out
Mhm.
uh, every month, regardless of sales or whatever is going on. And that's kind of how I do it. And that's not cash back or credit card. That's like money out of the business, like a
Yep.
salary every month. Um, and I think for a lot of people, like your best route for Amazon, I mean, obviously depends on your situation, but it's a job. It's a
Yeah.
job and Amazon. And if you're doing OA, especially, like you could do OA to prep.
Mhm.
Like you could source for 10, 20 hours a week with a 9 to 5. And if you're not doing any of the prep, that should be super doable.
Yep. Yeah, they like you said there that five like oh it's the easiest thing to make 5K or 10K a month or whatever. It's like, well, I guess, but you can't just make that every month without reinvesting. Like let's say you're making a 30% net ROI. Okay, you have to spend a certain amount of money to even get there every single month. And how are you going to get that money every month? Yeah,
True.
that's a tough one. I honestly I would like to know. I don't know the like accounting type of stuff on this, like how much you pay yourself, like what's the best percentage to pay yourself, but paying yourself 10K a month, I'd be interested to know how much money you have to make per year to do that. I would assume it's
Yeah.
probably, do you know the thing on that? Like you're supposed to pay yourself a certain percentage, right? Like for it to
Yeah.
make,
I don't do percentage. I just do a certain amount and let the rest roll in the business.
yeah, that's
Um,
regardless of how much money you're projected to make over the year or whatever.
yeah.
Okay. See, I thought it was like you needed to do like, this number might be off, but I think it's like 35% of your profit paid to yourself or something like that. So it's like,
Oh, like if you do, yeah, like the profit first method or something.
I don't know. I'm like accounting.
Oh,
Like this
just in
is
general.
optimal for your taxes. Yeah, which I'm not
Oh,
an accountant. I don't even know. I'm probably talking a little bit out my ass here, but I know that this is the case. I just don't know what the number is. But like if you make 100K a year in the business, like profit or whatever, paying yourself a certain percentage is like best for the tax burden, which
oh
I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah.
So you, like if you make 100K a year, you need to pay yourself like 35K a year for my example, which I think is like whatever, like 3K a month.
That's what my accountant says. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's like the standard practice. And then like you could adjust it up and down based on how the year goes, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Not
Cause it's like,
financial advice.
yeah, I don't know exactly. I don't know what the exact numbers are, but I assume it's probably something like that to make sure you're not paying more
Yeah.
tax on the money that you're like not paying yourself or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Yeah, to pay yourself 10K a month, let's say, okay, that's 120 grand a year. If it's 35%, you'd be making 400K a year in the Amazon business, which means, you're probably spending a few $1,000,000 a year, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Easy. Yeah.
Because I don't know anybody that's turning over like, I guess, yeah, 1.2, 1.4 million at 30% ROI, but it just ends up not usually being net 30% ROI, especially after all your expenses. So maybe you have to make like $500,000 or something, I
Yeah.
guess.
Probably around there.
Yeah, which is a lot of money
Yeah. It is.
to make 10K a month. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another little psyop I think with stuff is like the 7 income streams. That's like another thing. Millionaires have like 7 income streams. Like, dude, that's not good either. I hear people like, it's funny because I hear with all these like mentorship stuff I've done in the past, I hear people's language, and it's basically like all the marketing messages they've said. Even the questions for that seminar were just like marketing messages from people basically.
Yeah.
The only reason you're asking me this is because somebody online said it. Like, you don't need to diversify this or diversify that. Just, you need to focus on one thing, and then you can invest money. That's how you get those other income streams. You're not trying to do like 7 different things at a time. And it just doesn't add up
Yeah.
like that. It's too hard. You can't make progress.
Yeah, it's really hard to. I mean, I've lived it when I was trying to run the book business, start OA, do social media, just all this stuff that goes with it. And I think that too, most of these people, and that's like, I forgot which podcast it is, but they talk about it all the time. And it's like most people they just have one thing. They get rich, and then they start to add these other streams onto it. So I think that's like something to like consider. Like, if you're just starting an Amazon business, let's just say, like, your next move, like if you had an Amazon business for like 3 months, your next move probably isn't to go sell on Walmart as well. It's to
Yeah.
continue to grow your Amazon business until you have that kind of like down pat, or maybe outsourced or whatever, before kind of moving on to the next thing, because it's going to be really hard to make progress on both. Especially, that's like 2 huge projects.
Yeah,
Like,
it
because
is.
you're sourcing for you're running 2 stores, which is like crazy. And there's different probably rules, different ways to prep, and then stuff might get mixed up. Like, did I send this here? Like, I don't know. For me, I think you kind of have to pick the path, and I think what you said earlier, like if you just pick a path and stick to it, you'll be fine. Like, you could make a ton of money selling on Amazon. Like, I do it. Like, I sell on Amazon. I still like the opportunity. I think it's good for like what I want to do. And there comes like there's levels to it. Like, there's a reason why I could do work on another project while doing my Amazon business and still do well with it, because I've been doing it for 3 or 4 years. So it's not like I'm just getting started. I have like a whole list of things that I could buy all the time. I know all the sales. It's just much easier. So there is extra time for me. But if I was just getting started, yeah, there is no extra time to do a podcast and run a YouTube channel and Instagram and all this other stuff.
Yeah, it just takes too much effort, I think. Like, I watched a YouTube video, and I wish I knew who this was from, but I am stealing this from someone. But they were like, you need to think of your energy like a circle, and then like the circle has lines coming out from it. So if you want to try to do Amazon and like Walmart and social media and all this stuff, like you only have so much energy. So your lines are
Yeah.
going to be like 20% here, 10% here, 15% here. And then it only increases a little bit because you can only work on it that much, when in reality you should focus like 100% on one thing. Like, you need to be obsessed. You have to be hyper focused, because if not, you're just never going to grow at the rate you think you will. Like, it's just, everything's too
Yeah.
hard nowadays. Like, things are too competitive for you to try a bunch of different stuff and just like get lucky and have something work for you. Like, the only way you can
Yeah.
really do it is dedicating 100% of your energy all the time to it. And I read an article the other day. It was from this, like, it's a deleted thing now, but it's like Corporate Machiavellian is his name. And like the whole thing was like archived or whatever. But he
Okay.
talked about like getting rich. And it's like the key to getting rich is, finding an opportunity that is good and then getting really, really good at it, and then working way more than you think you need to work. Because if you're working 40 hours a week and your
Yeah.
competition's working at 80 to 90 hours a week, they're just lapping you like over and over, like literally
Yeah.
working.
We're working
It's going to get,
twice as much.
yeah, twice as much as you. When it's like 80 hours seems like a ton, but Like that's kind of what it takes if you want to be really, really great and become really, really rich. You have to work a lot with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, I don't know. That's definitely one of the things for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been thinking recently, like with this new thing I'm talking to you about, like this launching this offer, and I'm going to go way harder on social media and all this stuff. Like, I think it's going to take me like X amount of time, whatever per week. But in reality, it's probably going to take me double the time and double the stress, double
Easily.
the energy, all that. But, I'm trying to make a lot of money. So obviously, like that's what's required. I understand that because I've taught so many people different things and watched when they give up and how long it takes them and that type of thing.
Yeah, I think that's another good point to the kind of the shiny object syndrome is you got to look at why, or at least ask yourself why you want to move on. If it's
Mhm.
because it's hard now, or like for example, Amazon, right? Let's just say I see it all around Twitter, Instagram. It's hard to find stuff. It's hard to source. There's nothing out there. It's saturated. It's this. It's that. That is like so. I would like to ask all those people like how long are you spending sourcing? My guess is like 30 minutes to 60 minutes.
Yep.
Like this morning I sourced for 2.5 hours, was able to spend $2,000. Like just 2.5 hours. Most people, and that's with a timer hitting stop every time like I check my phone or whatever else that happens to pop up. So I think I always suggest that like get a timer. Like a lot of people think like, oh, I sourced all day. It's like, so you sat in a chair looking at your computer doing nothing else all day, like no social media, you didn't eat, you didn't go to the bed. Like come on, like get out of here. Like
It's not true.
so,
That's a lot.
but
Yeah, there's no way.
I could see why it would seem like you spent all day sourcing. I used to do
Yep.
that all the time, like, oh, I couldn't find anything today. Like I spent all day. It's like, well, you run a book business, like you shipped books this morning, like you gave your employee like it's like, so you really didn't do that all day. Your whole focus wasn't on that the whole day. So I think you got to get over that, and it's like I think a lot of people do the shiny object thing because it gets hard, and
Yeah.
then you move to the next thing, and inevitably it gets hard again. Like everything's easy to start. Like it's
Yeah.
fun, right? Like this podcast was a ton of fun to start, and now we're like, oh man, like what are we talking
What are
about?
we
Like
going to
now
talk
we got to
about?
book guests. Like well, we got to keep the momentum going. It was like, oh, this is amazing, and now we're both like super busy. Like I'm traveling tomorrow. Like you have stuff going on. Like the week before, like we were both doing like helping the seminar, and it's just when you have other stuff to do and just normal life, going to the gym, doing eating healthy, like doing all that kind of stuff, it's a lot to kind of like take on. It's worth it. Like I enjoy doing this, but yeah, I think on the papers, like we're like, yeah, we're just gonna like hop on video and just talk, and it's gonna be amazing. And I mean, to some extent, that's what we do. But there's definitely more planning and like, hey, like we need a topic, like we need to get guests, and yeah, we're gonna really focus on getting some guests these next couple episodes. Um, but yeah, I don't think that's a good reason to like look for the next
Oh, you
thing if
cut off
you're
there a little.
struggling. Oh, I was just saying if you're struggling, like I don't think
No, you're
it's
good. I heard most. I heard most of it.
okay. Cool. All right, let's go
Okay.
to the next point. What do you got?
Yeah. No. I wanted to talk more on that.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah, yeah, I think the consistency is kind of like what I try to keep in mind with this stuff. Like even
Yeah,
this podcast, it's like you text me like literally this morning. You're like, yeah, can we do it now? I'm like, yeah, let's just go now because I don't
yeah,
want to try to be okay. Let's do it tomorrow. Let's do it the next day.
yeah.
Because
Four
what if
hours from
something
now, I'm
else
not going to
pops
have a
up? I'm
better
just trying to get
idea.
the reps in.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. No, 100%. Because I'm not. If I haven't thought about it up until this point, I'm probably not going to figure it out. But yeah, well, the thing with the keeping the timer, I think that's like an actionable thing. Maybe it comes from a book or something, but like writing down every 15 minutes what you're doing, like
Yeah.
on the 15-minute mark. So
Ooh,
start
like,
at some time and just see like what you're doing. There's no way that you're sourcing for like that long. Just like you said,
yeah.
I think people claim that, but that's not what they're doing. Like that, you will find stuff if you source for 4 hours straight or five
That's
hours
why I
straight or
like the
whatever it is.
clock
Just the way it works.
because I'll be like,
Yeah.
oh man, like, can't believe I can't find anything. Like, this is crazy. And it's like, oh, it's been 12 minutes. Like, are you
Yep.
kidding right now? Like 12 minutes? Like, you could barely fire up like 4 or 5 products to look through.
Yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of this just goes back to what I said. The marketing message of all this stuff is it just people make it seem way easier, which that's the point. You got to make it
Yeah.
seem attainable for the average person. But then when they get there and they're like, "Whoa, it's way more work than I thought, and I don't actually make as much money as I thought, and all this different stuff." But that's really with like anything you do. It's just going to require more work. It's just not
Yeah.
as easy as you think it is.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel, yeah, that's how I got drawn in. I saw someone did, I don't know, $2-3 million in a year, and I was like, whoa. But I was like, oh, even only if like 10% of that's profit, that's still 300 grand or whatever. So that's how
Mhm.
I got sucked in. And then, yeah, it was a lot of work, and I decided it's worth it. And I still think it's worth it. So I do that. But yeah, it goes hand in hand.
Yeah, 100%. We're only 35 minutes in. What else you got to talk about? I don't know. What's new in your life, John? What kind of stuff you doing day to day? You're
For
traveling, you
me,
said. What are you traveling to?
I'm going to the
Well,
Miami Sellers Conference.
oh yeah.
So I'm really excited to do that. I'm speaking there. So that's exciting. I got to practice my presentation a bunch more. It's definitely
What are
like
you
come
doing?
together a lot.
What is it on?
My fitness journey. So basically how losing 35 pounds, like my business is up a lot
Mhm.
this year, and I attribute a lot of that to just getting in shape, feeling better. Like Q4 was not stressful at all. I remember the prior Q4, I started with the trainer in October. So right in there, um it wasn't like stressful at all. It was just like, oh, like this is great. And I remember just being so stressed out last year. And I think just mental clarity, being able to take on more stuff, you know, being able to run a YouTube channel, do a podcast, source, kind of do all this different stuff, would not be able to do that. I'm just like not as tired, have more energy. And I think that's kind of what I'm going to talk on. Um,
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's a
yeah.
good topic too. It's good to
Yeah.
hear that
Cause
too.
yeah,
Yeah.
no one really talks about it. I feel like fitness. And it does have like the biggest impact. Like I've experimented that's probably been one of the biggest things I've experimented with, kind of talking about almost doing better job time blocking. This has been huge for me. So I've been a big proponent of, and I think I said that when we interviewed Jonathan Duke does Amazon.
Mhm.
Like I like to wake up early, I like to source, then I go to the gym, and then kind of like the day, whatever happens throughout the day. So what I've been doing, I'm actually been going to the gym earlier. So I go to the gym at, I don't know, maybe get up, like kind of maybe check some replens, out of stock stuff, whatever, for like an hour, get to the gym by like 6ish. And then I have the rest of the day. And I think that has been huge for me because usually if I was like sourcing or struggling to find stuff or whatever, it's like, oh, I'll just go to the gym. And then by
Mhm.
the time I got back, it's already like, let's just say 1 or 2 o'clock. I was like, oh, like the day's not over. But, it's late. It's like to kind of get that up and going is kind of much harder for me. So just having like the ability to go, like if I don't get to the gym by like 12 or 1, it's like, oh, man, like I just don't want to do it. It makes it so much harder. It screws around with like eating too, because then it's like, oh, do, do I have lunch before I go? Like it just screws up. So now I just wake up, like have water, all that kind of stuff. I don't eat before I go. Then I get back. I'm having like breakfast at, I don't know, like 9, 10 or whatever time I get back, and then it's just like, okay. Actually, it's probably like 8 if I go to 6. But then it's like, oh, like the rest of the day is yours to like kind of crush it. Um, and I feel like I'm more alert as well. So when you
Yep.
first wake up, like even though you're not tired, you're not fully alert. Like after a workout, you're like, whoof, like let's go, like
Yep.
let's take on the day. So I think that has like played a role, and you're just more positive. You're feeling better. You got something hard done already, and I think that could be, yeah, I've always thought like, oh, you want to get your sourcing done first and like know you secured that. But if you don't, it happens. Then you're going to the gym. You're like, shit, like I should be like sourcing right now because this is taking for. It's just a different mindset. So I think for me, that's definitely worked. And I think that's one of the biggest things you need to do as a business owner or Amazon seller or whatever you are, is experiment. Be like, okay, I've tried the 5 a.m. sourcing, and going to the gym at like 10 or whatever, and then vice versa. Let me try to go to the gym for a week in the morning, see how I like it. And I don't know, I really like it right now.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, I guess that I'm not. I never go to the gym early in the morning, but it's really because I look at kind of lifting as like a bodybuilding context, which like you need the
Mm,
meal in before you lift, that type of thing.
got it.
But getting up and going at like first thing in the morning, I think getting it out of the way does just help your day a lot. Yeah, like
Yeah.
you said, doing something hard, if that's like the hardest part of your day, which a lot of people that could be the hardest part, especially like you're lifting heavy stuff, you have to take this
Yeah.
drive to this place. Yeah, getting that out of the way, it kind of frames the day to be an easier day, which I like that too. And that's my goal, kind of new goal I have this year, is to start getting up earlier and go straight to the gym and then come back and just work all day if I need to. Right now, though, I go to the gym like 11:30, 12 o'clock every day, but that's only because I'm like trying to get some food in before I go. And I
Mm,
fast all the way up until probably 11. I'll eat a meal and then try to get to the gym 11:30, 12. But
got it.
yeah, but I definitely understand the thing of getting up early in the morning like that. I'm going to try it. Like you said, I'm going to experiment with it
Yeah,
because
and I think and that's what I like. Actually thought it'd be much harder to do, like, because yeah, I'm like doing heavy lifts and all that kind of stuff without food, and it really hasn't been that bad. I have also every once in a while I'll eat like a protein bar before. It's like 200 calories, like I don't know, 27 grams of protein or whatever, and that seems to be like just fine for me. And I have like I'm drinking like an intra workout, so there's like a Gatorade in there with like some, I don't even know what the hell it is, whatever the trainer says to put in there. So I mean, I guess you're getting like some stuff and you're getting water or whatever, but it's not like, oh, like my lifts, if I was able to bench 200, it's not like it's down to 150, right? It's pretty
yeah,
comparable. And I also think too, once you get in the groove, like maybe it did go down to 150, but then it's going to go back up again
yeah.
eventually as you get stronger without food or whatever. That's kind of how I look at it.
No, definitely. Another thing too, I guess, is like I guess you probably started the whole like weight loss journey for like vanity. You want to look better.
Yeah.
But I guess now you've got this whole. You're not even talking about how you look. You're saying that I feel much better, which I think is kind of the normal thing that happens with people is they start it because they're like, I want to look better, I want to lose
Yeah.
weight, but in reality, that's affecting you in way more ways than just like you being overweight. You like are having less energy. You're doing all this different stuff, which is good to like hear that because
Yeah. It's
really, a lot of people
less.
start that and never lose the weight,
Yeah.
you know?
Less stress. And I think this is a perfect example too of what we're talking about, like the shiny object syndrome, because if I didn't have a trainer, I'd probably be like, Drew, like, what do you think I should do? And then Drew would say something and it would get hard. Then I'd be like, hey,
What else can I do?
Charles, what are you doing? Or like, you just jump from person to person to person. Oh, like this guy says, like, if you fast, like Joe Rogan says to do carnivore. It's like, okay, I'm going to do that. And then the year goes by, you tried carnivore, you tried to be a vegetarian, you tried to fast, and you're basically the same. You went down 20, put 10, like you just do this yo-yo, and it's like, yeah. And I've one of the hardest parts for me too, and this might play into shiny object syndrome, and kind of why maybe 75 hard didn't work for me, is having Garrett, who he's going to come on the podcast. I actually asked him the other day, and he said he
Mhm.
would do it. Is almost having that accountability. So like I lost 35 pounds and that's like a big win, but I still want to lose like another 35. So
Mhm.
it's easy just to be like, oh, I already lost 35. Like I'm winning here. But it's like, no, dude, like you're only halfway there.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'd be like, like I could see myself like already kind of like slipping a little bit. I think this week's just been like crazy, like trying to get ready for Miami and do all this other project I'm working on. Um, but it's like, no, like I know I'm gonna have to like get a phone call from him, and he'd be like, "Yo, I'm looking at your shit. Like, what are you doing?" And I'm gonna have to be like, "Oh, damn! Like, I got to get back on it." So I think having that accountability in anything, or like being part of a group or whatever, is just like super helpful. because it just keeps you on track. Like if we were both doing carnivore and I was like, hey, like, what do you think about this like fasting stuff? You'd be like, bro, we're doing carnivore. Who cares?
Just stick.
Like, this is what we're doing. Like, or just like, hey, like, why don't we start a Twitch channel? You're like, dude, like, no, like, this is what we're doing. Like, we're doing YouTube, iTunes, Spotify. Like, that's what we're doing. So I think that is like good because if you do have, or if you're just left to your own devices, it's probably easier just to like chase stuff. But like I was saying before, if I text like Garrett and I'm like, hey man, I don't know. What do you think about this? Like, I really don't like this workout. And it's mainly because it's hard. Like, no, dude, like we're following the program. Like, this is the workout. Like, we're doing like it's a little bit more cardio heavy right now, which I don't enjoy. I'm like, hey, like, why don't we go like more lifting? He like, no. Like, this is it. But like I could see like looking for like maybe an Instagram person or like a coach being that's just like, oh, like all you have to do is lift.
Mm-hmm.
But like that's like the messaging, but we all know it's gonna be like if you just lift, like maybe you like my diet is pretty on point, but like I'm like drinking, like I'm having pizza, like it's not like crazy strict. Um, but that would probably be the trade-off. Like if you're just lifting, right? It's like, oh well, you have to have a really strict diet, or vice versa, right?
Yep.
So I think it's just finding like the person or the thing and just sticking with it. And I was like thinking, because like the program I'm doing with him is 6 months. I'm like, oh, like I probably could finish it myself, but I'm gonna pay him for another 6.
Mhm.
Because like if I have it locked in for a year, like there's no way that I'm
Yeah.
not gonna lose the next 35. But if I let him go in like 2 months, there's a chance. I don't think I'm ever going back because it was so hard to get here. Oh, that was the other point I was trying to make is kind of like it was really hard up front and it didn't look like a lot of progress was being made. And I was like, bro, like I'm only losing like 1 to 2 pounds. He's like, but you're losing inches here. Like just stick with me here. Like just keep doing this. I think having that guidance of like someone be like, dude, like this is normal. Or it's like, man, like
Yeah.
I'm so sore. He's like, I'm so sore. And like he's in like amazing shape. He's like, dude, like it's how it is. Like that's
Yeah.
just like the game. And then he's like, if you continue, like we could do like I forgot what he calls it, like a deload or something. But basically, it's no lifting, but you're still getting like 10K steps in, eating healthy or whatever, but it just gives your body like a lot of time to recover. And then you like kind of really go right back to kind of what you were lifting and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, I made a YouTube video about that the other day. It's like if you're really struggling with Amazon and sourcing and all this stuff, like maybe just take a week off. Like it sounds super counterintuitive, but I basically did that. I went to New York like 4 weeks ago. I came back. I was like, I'm ready to crush it. Like I'm ready to go. I just like hung out with my family, eat what I want, drank what I want, didn't work out, just like it's like total 4 or 5 days. And then when I came back, I'm like, let's go. I'm ready to do this.
Yeah, the interesting part of that diet stuff is the 1 and 2 pounds a day. That seems like it's nothing at all, but really,
Yeah.
if you add that up over a year, that's a ton of weight you're losing. I
Yeah.
did that. I think I talked on the goals thing at the beginning of the year. If I wanted a 6 pack, which I was like 210 at the time, so I was probably 20-25 pounds away from a 6 pack. And I stopped on Christmas. I started the diet, and by February 1st, I was down like 12 pounds. So I was already under 200 pounds, which I was like halfway to the 6 pack. But I realized that my energy was taking a tank because when you're cutting calories like that, I was eating like
True.
1,600 calories a day. And like as a
Damn.
full grown adult, that's crazy. But I like,
That's like
I don't
four
have
400-calorie meals, which is ridiculous.
yeah, it was. I was doing just like one meal of like 900, 1,000 calories, and I would just like put stuff in, but it just destroyed my energy, and it made me just not very
Yeah.
fun because I'm low energy. I don't want to go out to eat. I don't want to drink with anybody. I'm just kind of like stuck on this thing. So I decided I'm not even doing this anymore because what am I going to do? I'm going to get the 6 pack and then just stop. Like I want to feel good. That's the point.
Yeah.
I'm not in this to like it just didn't even align with it. So now if I decide to do that again, I'm going to take the route that, like you're saying, just going slower, because you just feel better. You can't
Yeah.
crash your stuff and still feel good. You're going to feel reverse of what you've said. You're more clear and all this stuff. You're going to feel
Well,
horrible.
he was also saying it's like not good for your body. He's like, you're gonna
Yeah.
look super weird if you lost like 20 pounds in a month. You're like, your body's gonna look weird. It's not natural for it. All this other stuff. And then I was just kind of doing the math. And I think this is a big part too. It's like you don't want to put in the work, but like you said, if you lose 1 to 2 pounds a week, right? That's 52 pounds at the end of the year. 52 to 100 pounds.
Yeah.
So I mean that's a lot of weight, and it's just better off because it'll be more sustainable, and I'm just gonna like stick there. And I also think too, like having someone for guidance. If like someone like booked a coaching call, it's like I want to have my first 6-figure month, like 2 months in. I'm be like, bro, no, like
Yeah.
it's possible, but it's extremely rare unless you have a ton of capital. I wouldn't even recommend that. And that's basically what I said to him. I was like, "Oh, I want to be." I think I said like 180 or something. He's like, "No, like that's just not happening." He's like, "You." He's like, "I'm 180, and you're like 6 inches taller than me. Like it's not happening." He's like, "Do you want to look good?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "You're probably gonna net around like 220."
How
I'm like,
tall are you?
"What?" 5'11".
Yeah. Yeah. 220, 210. Yeah.
Yeah,
That'd
I
be
was
a
like,
help.
"What?" Like, no, like, he's like, "Bro, you can't go by like those stupid charts." And like, he's like, "We're just gonna do it like based on how you look and feel." Like, he's like, "You
Yeah.
could feel like shit at 180, but like amazing and muscular at 220."
Exactly. Yeah.
And I was like, "Huh, okay." Like, I'm all about that because it's less weight to lose as well. And I think that's what the Amazon business, like when I was doing like 100K months, like I kind of felt like shit. Now
Yeah.
where I'm at, like this is like exactly where I want to be at, and I just like kind of like that. So I think also it's like I'm not chasing a big wholesale business or having a warehouse and having employees and doing all that stuff. So I think that kind of also helps offset shiny object syndrome when you know what you want, and if you're getting what you want, you'll probably be less likely to want to like go somewhere else
Yeah.
or do
Do you
something
have any
else.
long, like, what's your like long-term goals with the fitness stuff? Do you want to be like skinny, or do you want to be muscular? Is there any kind of thing you have in mind there?
I just told him, I was like, I want to look good. Like I want to look like I work out.
Yeah.
And I don't want a six pack. Um, but yeah, I just want to be like if someone saw me like, oh wow, he's in good shape.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
just be like healthy and like feel good, have energy, not be like super sore. And that's one thing I learned a lot working with him is there's so many other little I guess you call it micro things that you just don't realize. Like kind of just like being sore or okay, like don't do this, we're gonna do this instead. It's not, oh, stop completely. It's like, okay, we have to pivot. Or he's like, there's gonna be a time where your body's gonna stop responding like to kind of weight loss, and you're actually gonna have to eat more calories
Hmm.
to get it back. Like it has to be healthy calories. It can't be like McDonald's and shit like that. But I'm like, what, really? And he's like, yeah, like I just got done with it. He added like 500 to 600 calories, and then his metabolism reset or something, and then he started like losing weight again. So there's all these like little things where it's like how you start isn't how you finish, and just kind of like having like that help and guidance has been like extremely helpful.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to look like you like work out, you're probably not far away from that. You probably, I don't know how long you think you are, but you're probably like less than, by what is it, March?
Yeah.
Yeah, by September, you should look like that at the rate that I've seen you go, which is crazy because I talk to you so frequently that I just like
Yeah.
haven't even paid attention. And then I went back and watched like the first podcast we ever did, and I was like, dude, that is a different guy. Like
Yeah.
your like weight loss is actually super significant. You should make a transformation post about that, by the way, on Instagram. It's
I
crazy. If you go
definitely
back,
should.
yeah, you can actually take a screenshot of like our podcast and the first one we did. Like that is
That's
crazy. I feel like
true.
I haven't known you that long, and you've looked like a different human. It's crazy, dude. You've like made a massive, massive transformation. I never even realized it either. I'm sorry, but I just like
That's
pay attention. I'm like, I don't even look at it like that, but looking back, it's crazy.
Yeah, no, and I think that's kind of yeah, I think that's like about business too. Like that's just
Yeah.
how it is. It's like, oh, I was like doing the presentation, I was like going back through my phone or whatever, and it's crazy to think that this like seven-figure business started with me sending 6 books. 6 books from a Salvation Army
Yep.
like to Amazon. And now like look what happened and kind of like the journey and everyone I've met and stuff like that. Like if you told me like we'd have this podcast or how much we would have done on it, I would be like, you're crazy. Like that's insane. And I think just having I don't know, you just have to almost have faith to like keep going and stay the path and just kind of stick with it and not get caught off guard. And I do think too, a lot of people and like yeah, it's hard. Like I think one of the things like you just have to be disciplined and almost only look for solutions when necessary. Like
Mhm.
I get pitched all the time like, "Oh, do you want to try this new repricer? Do you want like no, like I'm good with my software suite like unless I start to have a problem with something. Like I love Aura. Like Aura is set up, it works well for me. I don't want to explore anything else. Like I'm good. Is it the
Mhm.
best? I don't know. I like it. It works for me. But like it's not worth taking the time to look at other opportunities or other things because it just works. And like so I think a lot of people go like chasing tools or should I like the big one is like, oh, tactical arbitrage. It's like, oh, if I didn't have to source manually and tactical arbitrage should just do it for me. Like it's like, well, like if everyone used tactical like if that was really the case, then everyone would use it and nothing would be profitable anymore. So you gotta like just put in the work and just yeah, we live in a world where it's like putting in the work is not like a thing. And I think that changed like my whole Amazon business, just the whole fitness aspect of it because it's like you have to put in the work and up front it didn't look like it was working initially. And now it's like, oh, you look like this. And it's like, wow, like it was just going to the gym. Or it's like, no, bro, it was like 4 months of like crazy work or because I like once like said to him, I was like, dude, like if you do the math, like I'm going to the gym like 40 hours a month. And then like if you divide that out by like how many pounds I lost, it's like I forgot what it was. I was like, it's 1 pound for every 10. He's like, you can't look at it like that. Like, that's the dumbest thing. Like, he just like laughed at me. And I was just like, he's like, you gotta look at like the other benefits you're getting. Like, you're looking better. He's like, you forget about like the scale. He's like, you just gotta keep going. And he basically was just like, if you keep showing up to the gym, you're gonna hit your goal. Like, he's like, process over everything. And I was like, you're right.
Yeah, that's kind of I always try to tell people that it's like if you just focus on the inputs, like just stop worrying about the outputs of stuff because there's really like nothing you can do truly to affect the output of it. Like you only can affect the input. So it's like similar to what you're saying. Like you just have to stay focused every day, do the same thing, and focus
It's
on like whatever
boring.
your goal is. Yeah, it is definitely boring. Most stuff like this, yeah. I think that's another thing people get kind of wrong that it's
Yeah.
going to be fun all the time. Which I think that there is something about doing something that's relatively aligned with you that's kind of fun for you. It makes it a little bit easier,
Yeah.
but there's always going to come points where it is boring.
Yeah, I think like finding profitable OA stuff like this morning is exciting. It's fun. Like you're finding new ASINs. Like I try to shoot for like 3 a day. But it's when it's you're not finding stuff or you don't want to source or you're like, oh, like I want a new website. It's like, no, like just you gotta stick to like what's working or what filters are working and just like kind of work through that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that definitely helps, I don't know, stay focused, I guess.
Yep. Well, and close it out. But one thing I
Yeah.
wanted to say, if somebody's listened this long, I think what was we had this idea of doing like a YouTube live stream one evening or one night and just
Yeah.
bringing people on. I think that'd be super cool. That we just like
Oh,
bring
yeah.
people onto the thing, have them ask questions or whatever. I haven't seen anybody do that a lot. I know Miles does something similar with
Yeah.
like pre guest, but I'd be down to talk to people live as long as it was not somebody that got on here and was a crazy person. But
Yeah,
uh,
no, we could definitely do it through StreamYard. I know how to kind of do that.
okay,
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, we should definitely do a live show for the 20th, for sure.
okay.
And figure out kind of how to do that or who
Oh yeah,
knows, just go live.
what episode is this?
I think this is 16.
Okay, yeah, let's do it for 20. That's like
Yeah,
a
we'll
month
do it
away.
for 20. We'll do something. Yeah, I feel like live show would be cool, and we'll
Cool.
like kind of figure that out.
Yeah, 100%. That'd be sick. Well,
Cool.
well, anyways, if you guys have any guest recommendations, drop them in the comments because we have been struggling
Yeah,
with
for
thinking
sure.
about guests. And
Yeah.
like, comment, subscribe.
We'll
Rock and
see you
roll.
in the next one.
Peace.
Peace.